episode of Critical Critique Pause on Point. Today we're going to be coming back to our good pal, our good buddy, our good friend, the Mother's Basement.
We are not clout chasing.
We're not clout chasing this
Absolutely
time.
not clout chasing.
Yeah, we're covering a pretty harmless little video from our good pal, who is the Mothers in the Basements. So this is building a better SAO. What makes a good fake game? And it's going to be about, I assume, because I haven't watched this video yet, it's going to be about
Beaufort, I believe, is the
Beaufort is indeed the shortening.
Alright, well, I guess we might as well
The
get right
shortening
into it.
part
I've
2.
long been fascinated by the process of faking games. Not to be confused with making games, though that's pretty darn fascinating in its own right. Video games are an increasingly important part of our culture, so it's only natural that people would want to tell stories about them. And because of the obvious legal and creative limitations that come with writing about existing intellectual properties, that often requires designing entire fictional games to build these stories around. Making a good fake video game and presenting it in a believable manner is a challenge not just of game design know-how, but of world-building skills and narrative logic. It takes a...
Alright. I guess.
Yeah, there's a... this is already... We're stumbling into the Mother's Basement problem.
Yeah. He's saying really obvious shit that everybody understands. If you're going to write about a game, you need to understand how a game works.
At least to a,
A believable extent.
believable extent.
Unless you're doing something like Existence or something where, it gets really trippy, but yeah.
Yeah, you'd probably want, some experience. It's probably very similar to how a lot of authors will base their stuff off D&D, right? Like, they clearly would have experience playing D&D and would take that experience into their work, right? So I find it...
or still just like Nihei is an architect, and suddenly if you read his mangas, all his manga is filled with big old structures reaching into the infinite.
Because he's probably relatively good at drawing buildings if he's an architect.
And those dimensions and scales and of if the person is this big, the building is that big.
Yeah. That actually, what was his name? I linked a video about him. It was the guy that inspired all those heavy metal album styles, or whatever. The guy who would do. I can't remember what his name was.
No, the
yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
The Polish artist. I think he was Polish.
Yeah, he's Polish. I can't remember his name. And that's going to annoy me. But he also was an architect for a long time. And if you look at a lot of his work, he does a lot of buildings in his work, and you can clearly kind of see, right, the architectural skill, I guess, within it. So what Mother's Basement is saying right here is again, as Ellie pointed out, it's really fucking obvious, right? But hopefully he's going to be able to turn this incredibly...
Right to what you know.
Yes, right to what you know. Perhaps he will be able to turn this very obvious point into an actual point. So, let's see.
A lot to get it right. And this anime season has brought us not one, but two VR MMO anime that I think get it very right. Beaufort and Infinite Dendrogram. So how does one...
Is anyone watching any of these two? Because I'm not watching either.
I'm watching Beaufort.
I gotta get onto that. I gotta get onto that one. That one's one that I've probably got on the back burner that I might watch at another time.
Yeah, I need to get onto both because I heard Infinite Dendro. Oh my god!
Infinite Quadrahedron.
Yeah, the Infinite Hypercube. I heard that has really good world building. From both. Just what people have been saying from what Bio has been telling me, so he seems to be really into that.
Yeah, Bio's been really hyping that one up quite a bit in our chats with him. So
gotta sync up with my boy.
Yeah, boy. Yeah. So I've heard some good things about them. But of course, since I don't have much experience, we're gonna have to trust our boy in the Mother's Basement to hopefully explain.
Well, I can say stuff about Beaufort at least, but I want to bring up one point, and it is isekai related once again. I once again ask of your attention on the subject of isekai.
You have the floor.
Yep.
And that is Mother's Basement's called these VR MMO stories.
Right.
Which is accurate.
Very accurate. Surprisingly accurate considering the person.
There is another...
Yeah, he didn't call them isekai.
Yeah. SAO is not an isekai story. It's a VR MMO story. VR MMORPG story.
You know what? I guess we can take the credit for this. We started this. We did this. It's like that meme of I made this, you made this, I made this, we did this. This is our doing.
Soon we'll surpass.
We live in a post-truth world. If we believe hard enough.
Yeah.
We'll soon surpass Mother's Basement.
That's where it stopped off. If we believe hard enough.
Yeah, if you believe in the heart of the meme, we can make our memes from dreams into reality. But anyway, let's keep going.
And go about using video game elements and the principles of game design to tell a good story in other mediums. Somewhere between these two series, I think we can find the answer to that question. When I first set out to write this video, I initially wanted to explore why I find the broken, imbalanced, at times player-hostile design of SAO to be so unappealing, while the broken, imbalanced, at times player-hostile design of Infinite Dendrogram seems like it would make for pretty much the best game ever. But...
Alright. Go.
Well, I mean, he's gonna be in luck. Like, his vendetta against SAO is gonna be complete. It's gonna be banned in Australia soon.
Oh no!
Dating this video.
Totally.
On the exact day.
On the exact day. So, it's interesting how everything has to come back to SAO, which is ironic considering he did put out a tweet where he was like, "Oh, I regret shitting on SAO" when he was getting shit.
I forgot to mention it also, but go on.
Because because the history was he was getting crap because he made a joke quotes a joke about how the Neko Parara creator is an incel and how the show is creepy and pedophilic and really weird and people were not too happy about that tweet. Not very happy. So he decided, the best course of action was to go, "Oh, guys, it was just a joke, and I'm sorry I shat on SAO." And then all was forgiven because him apologizing for shitting on SAO is just a great deflection. Like it just completely takes everyone's mind off the horrifically terrible take he had, and now everyone's talking about how the great SAO basher himself regrets the fact that he bashed SAO. It's like, wow. God, what an epic gamer move that was.
Sorry, I thought you were going a slightly different way. I was more of the way of SAO was written by, I'm forgetting his name once again, when he was like 15.
Yeah.
Do you know how games work at 15? No, you don't. So you write a power fantasy where the game mechanics just benefit you and you don't think about whatever systems behind them.
Well, that's interesting how you frame it as beneficial to the player, because the way Mother's Basement just characterized it was player hostile.
Yeah, it's player hostile but beneficial to the player main character.
Right, so the game mechanics themselves are player hostile. But at the same time, they bend to the will of the main character.
Yeah, whatever the game does, the main character has some benefit or has some sneaky way around him, and that makes for cool moments or whatever. But if you
makes for cool moments, but not thematic storytelling.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
If you have a mechanic in the game which allows you to ignore the mechanic of the game for the main character to pull some crazy ass super cool move,
crazy ass bullshit, yeah,
then all the other players just is stuck with some shitty attack.
let's see where it goes.
As soon as I started actually writing the thing, I realized that the answer to that is a lot simpler than it first appears. Like most things in game design, it's a question of context. SAO, the game, is structured as a dungeon crawler with MMO bits, where players technically have the option to choose any playstyle they want, but any playstyle that doesn't involve either using swords to undeaden things or making swords and other equipment for the players doing the undeadening is kinda useless when it comes to pursuing the game's primary goal of clearing dungeons and killing bosses to reach the top of Aincrad. That clear, universal goal likewise makes it just super duper unfair that some lucky players like Kirito can gain access to unique abilities that no one else has that double.
So, okay, yeah, it is kind of bullshit that he gained access to unique abilities, but wasn't the entire purpose of, the game that they were trapped in was that it was a death trap, and it wasn't exactly fair because it was a survival of the fittest scenario?
Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot about SAO, but what I do remember about SAO was the whole premise of the show was that I don't know if, people were not meant to survive it, but at the same time, it was it was a death trap, right? It
was a death game scenario, and they make a point of this in the first episode when he rushes off to immediately start grinding, because, there's limited resources for that, and he kind of recognizes, this is one of those survival of the fittest scenarios. I can't, dolly around, so, yeah, it comes with the nature of the story that it's not going to be fair.
Yeah, I guess the problem that I have with Mother's Basement Position here is, the game of SAO in Universe is not designed in a way that is like a game would be in real life, right? Because of what you just said. Because it's designed to be the survival of the fittest type thing, whereas most games in the real world are not. At least, in terms of the type of game that SAO is trying to be, right?
Yeah,
dungeon slash raid type thing.
But this game,
it's kind of.
Oh, sorry.
It's kind of like the fault of the writing, because with that entire arc, I can't believe I remember this much about the first season of SAO, but with that entire arc, the main character, or not the main character, the main antagonist, he wasn't really written very,
wasn't the best.
Well.
Wasn't the
yeah,
best.
So his motivations were kind of vague, and his idea about making a death trap scenario was also kind of vague and didn't really tie in terribly well. But young writer.
Yeah. Oh, phone's going off.
Anyway. I just wanted to say one more thing, and that is that the game is kind of unbalanced. And Mother's Basement is right. And if the game is made to be a dungeon crawler, clear floor by floor thing, it's kind of pointless to have fishing or forestry or whatever skills also in it. And in Universe, that would have been called a problem. Why have this stuff when it's not beneficial? Why allow players to spec into it when it just wastes points?
Yeah.
Unless there is some other system that has some other career paths, other progression paths in the game. But that is never explored or explained, so...
Well, we could assume that, again, this is an assumption on my part, that if you're fishing, right, what's fish? Fish is food. What's food? Well, food is, in a game context, typically used as, health recovery, buffs, that kind of thing. Possible that those people out there fishing for fish are collecting ingredients that other people will turn into those health potions.
Yeah, but it's...
See where I'm getting at? Because that's actually typically how normal MMO economy would work, is you have people who will grind the resources to create the thing.
Yeah, but this is then a difference of opinion between you and Mother's Basement, and that Mother's Basement sees SAO more really as a dungeon crawler with unneeded elements around it, rather than an MMO.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing that he said, was that he views it as a dungeon crawler, where I always viewed SAO more as like a MMO where, okay, so there's dungeons and raids like any other MMO, but there's also, you know, the overworld, and you grind in the overworld to get the resources that you use to, use the resources in the dungeons, right?
Yeah, so, and moving up in the tower isn't terribly different from, it's a more direct way of portraying locking out certain later content.
You go from the low level zone to the high level zone, right?
Yeah.
You go for you beat this quest that's a high level quest, it unlocks the next area, that kind of thing. So I don't know, maybe Mother's Basement, he's got a different idea of what he thinks SAO is about, but all right, let's keep going.
Double their DPS, and therefore make it objectively easier for them to accomplish that goal than anyone else playing. Infinite Dendrogram, the game, meanwhile, is billed as a fully simulated sandbox, where players are encouraged to create their own playstyles, set their own goals, and ultimately find their own meaning in the play experience. And while the Embryo system at least superficially resembles SAO's unique skill system, that difference in objectives makes, well, all the difference in the experience. Ray Starling's Vengeance is Mine, which allows him to pay back damage dealt to him by a single enemy double, gives him a pretty significant and obvious advantage when it comes to fighting big bosses. And it would totally break a game like SAO, but in Infinite Dendrogram, where players can be merchants, politicians, entertainers, journalists, secret evil NPC genocide societies, or weird perverts in penguin costumes who use fake potions to trick other players into fulfilling their Nekomimi fetishes, and all of those choices are treated as equal.
Okay, this is just selling me on this show now.
Yeah, the second problem of good old Mother's Basement is just summing up things that he likes.
Yeah. This is just like a summary of the show itself, and it's just selling me on it. I might actually fucking watch some of this later if I've got time.
Oh, you fell for his advertisement.
I know. It's disgusting.
What company? Is working through?
Well, technically I didn't, because I'm sure as hell not going to watch it on fucking Crunchyroll. That's for sure.
There you go.
You're going to watch it on TV when it airs on the Sunday
I'm gonna watch
evening.
it. I'm gonna watch it 100% regally, right? 100% regal. So, but yeah, he's just describing like these different mechanics, right? But again, it feels weird because, like we established before, he seems to have a very different idea about what SAO is in comparison to like me, right? Whereas he's talking about SAO like it's a dungeon crawler with MMO elements, whereas I would consider it an MMO, which has...
If it wasn't a death trap.
If it wasn't a death trap, right? This scenario is more like, okay, so it's a simulation of a fantasy world, right? Not unheard of, right, in video games, attempting to do that. And it has a lot of player freedom, a lot of player customization, a lot of different roles you can play. The big difference is I guess this is not like a death trap scenario. It's more of a, hey, this is a game scenario, right? So I don't know. I don't know. I would have to watch the show, I think, to get a better understanding.
Mother's Basement is spoiling the entire setting and saying every little bit of it that he likes.
Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, let's keep going.
Valid. How does one even quantify what abilities are truly more powerful than others? Like stands in JoJo, it's less about what you have and more about how you use it. Embryos as a design feature undeniably have downsides. Just look at how unbalanced PvP can be in this game. But they support infinite dendrograms.
Because it kind of annoyed me that he doesn't explain what the embryo system is.
Yeah, he's going into a lot of detail with a whole lot of things that he likes, but he's not actually explaining the one thing that he keeps referencing as like a main, like, because I don't know what the embryo system is.
I mean, I got it through the video eventually, but yeah, if you are watching it now blind, not knowing about the show,
what I am, which is what,
and you have no idea what the embryo system is so far.
This is a common problem, because I know Manime Matt's also done this. I think when we covered his Cautious Hero video, we brought this up, where they don't explain things, right? Like, I would like a primer on what this embryo system is and does, like just a simple, oh yeah, this embryo system, it is like a character class thing that evolves as you play, and as you do different things, you can get different things based on how you play, or that, like that kind of thing. That's just me, pulling crap out of my ass, but that kind of explanation, like just a quick one sentence, this is what it does, this is what it's about, and then move on. And then you can reference that again.
The embryo or the embryo system, the embryo in the embryo system is basically your special ability companion that manifests themselves based on your personality and traits.
All right. So that's why he's referencing it as like a stand.
Yeah.
Because that's what stands are, kind of, in JoJo. All right. See, that's the thing. Like he could have just said that. Like he did bring up stands in JoJo, but he didn't like tie it together, right? Like he could have just said that. But anyway, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, he needs to explain things better.
Central design goal of limitless player freedom and self-expression, and most of the other features we've seen in the game so far likewise support that intended experience. Even the much maligned 24-hour logout penalty clearly exists to ensure that players feel like their choices have meaningful consequences. As is the case with real video games, it's that intentionality and synergy in design that makes Dendrogram a good fake game where SAO is a kind of bad one. But that's just the start of this discussion.
And hey, why would SAO be a bad fake game when it's written by a complete 15-year-old amateur? Maybe even younger.
Not even that. He hasn't really explained what makes it better. Because again,
he did. It was a lot of words and basically.
It was a lot of words, but they didn't really tie together.
Well, I can tie them together, but to explain it, I have to use as much words.
but to do that, you have to do his work for him.
Putting a Korean-style stamina system in your MMO makes it good. I mean, that's what the 24-hour that's what the 24-hour logout period is, right?
Having the sanity system in Arknights is apparently, it makes it a better mobile game than other ones. See, that's what I mean, right? It's not really connecting to me, right? Like what he's mean. So this one has different mechanics to this one. This makes this one better. Okay, how?
The world of Infinite Dendrogram is built to be a do what you want sandbox, while he argues that SEO is built as you have to progress through these floors.
Right. But the problem is that doesn't make SAO inherently worse. It just makes it different. Right.
That's just where opinions differ.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the problem, right? Yeah. Like, because he's making authoritative, objective statements here, right? He's saying this show does this better than this show. But that's not like a matter of opinion. That's something that you have to quantify, right? Like I want him to kind of quantify what he's.
You want more direct contrasts.
Yes.
Well, he has 21 minutes left. He might still make a point.
If we can get through the whole 25 minutes, but
one we might pause on. I am name dropped.
Maybe. All right, let's.
Because of course, a good fake video game does not automatically make for a good fake video game anime. Like stands in JoJo, it's less about what you have and more about how you use it. Bofuri provides a great point of contrast.
one because he used the phrase, just like a JoJo stand, it's not what you have, but how you use it, twice. And basically...
Oh, wow, really? He didn't, looking through the script, he didn't pick that out?
Yeah, I just noticed that too, yeah, because he brought up JoJo, literally a minute ago.
In the video
He really wanted to make that penis joke twice. That's what it was, right? Because it's a stand. Yeah,
it's not about what you have; it's how you use it. Yeah, that's. this is gonna be a long one. Oh god. Right.
Did that joke really need to be said twice?
New World Online isn't all that well designed. In fact, it's kind of a shit show. Some of its systems have seemingly been lifted straight from SAO, specifically the FF2-esque way that skills are acquired and leveled through repeated use. And right off the bat, the anime...
Okay, but what makes that system inherently bad? Like, there are a lot of video games...
That's not even something inherent to SAO. That's how it works in Morrowind.
Yeah, like Skyrim, even... Like, the more you swing the sword and you do damage with the sword, the better you get at the sword, right? That's like a... It's a relatively... I don't know, yeah, because Morrowind had it, so I wouldn't say it's a modern gameplay, like, style, but it's definitely a game philosophy.
But also, just to critique the Mother's Basement here, it's a more common thing used in video game system stories, which you got the video game world system, but you also have the isekais like Kumo wa Nani desu ka?
I think the main reason that it would be commonly used in these types of systems is because it's relatively easy to explain to the viewer.
And it shows progress quite literally as levels.
Hell, even Shield Hero has it, right? It's like, hey, more you do thing, better you get at thing, right? Like, kind of. It does still have traditional EXP
and I
systems.
just wanted to talk a little bit more of that Kumo ga Nani desu ka, so what I'm a spider, that literally has, if you eat more poisonous stuff, you gain poison resistance, and later on poison immunity, etc., etc. This is a common thing that stories use, so I don't think it's if you can, I wouldn't even believe it started with SEO, because I don't really remember this system of gaining abilities through getting poisoned and then gaining an immunity out of it. I don't remember such a thing in SAO.
In SAO, I remember this in particular because I remember like laughing at how kind of bullshit it was, but in SAO, didn't he specifically say that he dumped all his points into like a defensive stat or something?
You mean Dofuri? You say SAO?
No, not in Bofuri, in SAO, because remember he gets like jumped by those 3 bandits.
Yeah, I don't recall if he dumped stat for that.
And he specifically says something like that. I recall this. Like, I'm not crazy. I hope I'm not crazy, but
right.
I specifically recall that he says that because so this isn't an SAO style system because you're deciding where things go.
Right. But here's the thing, right? Whether or not Mother's Basement's correct in what he's saying or not, right? I don't see how that system's inherently bad. Because again, I feel like the reason it's probably so prevalent within these types of stories is just because it's easy to explain, right? It's easier to explain than like stats, right? Like if we're talking about like marketing something to a general audience, or if we're talking about like just in general, I want to get to the story. I don't want to have to spend like 50 pages explaining how stats work in my book, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, they
do thing get better, right? There you go.
The thing is, it makes for a very bad game. If you have this system in a real game, like get poisoned 5 times, you get poison resistance. That breaks the game.
Actually. New Vegas has that.
No, I brought that up with Morrowind because jump around the game acrobatics.
But
in New Vegas is like the way they. No, hang on. Let me talk about this in New Vegas, right? Because in New Vegas, I believe that there are like achievement type things, right? And as you play the game, if you do certain things a certain number of times, and I know that there's one, if you get stung by Cazadors enough, I'm pretty sure it gives you, like, a poison resistance if you survive getting stung by Cazadors enough. I think. Yeah. Don't quote me on that. I might be wrong on that, because it's like, I haven't played fucking New Vegas.
The thing is that those systems exist, or maybe in New Vegas, in Morrowind, you jump around for acrobatics. But how extreme it is, that is very unique to this story. It isn't as unique as in the games.
I guess it's more like I guess it's more having it as the main focus core system, right? But even in saying that, again, I fail to see how it's an inherently bad system to have it's a core system.
I see Mother Basements arguing that it's a bad system because it wouldn't work in a real video game.
But that's contradicted by the fact that it is used in real video games.
No. Getting poison resistance after getting poisoned 5 times and getting poison immunity 5 times after the next 5 times you get a little poison is broken, because what players do? Get poisoned 5 times and you're resistant. Get poisoned 10 times, you're immune. Goodbye, all poison enemies in the future.
Right, that would be broken.
Yeah, and that's
scaling's bork.
And that is how that is how it works in this show and other.
Okay, so I think I'm starting to actually understand the problem, right? When Mother's Basement's talking about the system, he actually means the scaling of the system, not the system itself, right?
I mean, you could balance. I see some future issues where people can game this kind of system completely with like five abilities, and then you're immune to basically everything. But
I'm just thinking that I don't think the system in itself. I think you could make it work, is what I'm trying to say, right? It's just that the scaling of the system, again, because I don't want to say that the use of the system itself is inherently bad. I would say it's neutral, right? Similar to a trope, right? I view tropes as neutral until they're executed, and then you can decide whether or not it's executed poorly or well, right? With the system, I view it similarly, right? It's not an inherently bad system, it's how it's executed. So when Mother's Basement is saying the system is bad, that's what's irking me. Because I feel like if he was saying, okay, so the way the system is balanced is the problem, then it would start to click, right?
Alright, I'm going to pull out my big old I've watched this show card.
And I'm gonna pull out my big D&D manual, and I'm gonna school you.
Wow, you're totally not having ADHD.
And I'm going to say, with the amount of skills and abilities and etc. and the progression of it, if you want to use this system with this much abilities in it, it's impossible to balance. That's why it's a bad system. If you have this system with like 5 or maybe even 10 abilities of this kind, that you can balance that. But with how many there are in this show and other shows and series with this system, it wouldn't work at all. Because you would have a skill of not tripping or something. Immune to tripping.
No, I'm seeing what you're saying now. But let's keep going. But I get you.
Demonstrates how a player who knows what they're doing, or rather doesn't at all, could literally exploit such a system in their sleep. Bofuri is a comedy built around the rather ingenious premise of throwing an uncannily lucky ditzy moe protagonist into the very serious world of a competitive VR MMO, and the fact that the fake video game at its core is kinda bad only enhances the comedic aspects of the series. This purposefully inept design also allows the show to realistically depict an aspect of gaming that most other titles in this subgenre kinda ignore, that gamers really like to complain about things. When other players see our heroine Maple dominate the game's first PvP event, the conversation almost immediately shifts from praising her skill as a newbie to discussing how obviously broken her character build is, which prompts the game's designers to patch in a balance fix, and from that point forward, they're stuck playing catch-up as she moes her way into newer, scarier exploits every time they think they've finally reined her in. The player community, meanwhile...
Sounds like a fun premise.
Yeah, the one complaint I have against Mother Basement in this part is that in these screens, they don't complain at all. They are basically praising Maple, the main character. Like,
hang on a minute.
Hail the great walking fortress for having discovered this build.
So are you trying to tell me that Mother's Basement is lying right now?
He's kind of misrepresenting the facts and the scene.
Ooh. Mother's Basement. Bad boy.
They're not complaining that Maple is broken.
Okay.
They are noting that Maple is broken.
Right. That's fascinating how he's doing that. That's
Isn't it broken? Oh, she didn't take any damage at all. Damn! All hail the walking fortress. That's the great. Comments that were made. Not
that's great.
Fucking Maple with her broken ass build. I wish you were banned.
Please nerf now. Nerf, please.
No, please. Nothing like that.
That's interesting how he's misrepresenting that. Then I find that fascinating. But let's keep going.
Finds itself a little torn on Maple, because on the one hand, she represents some significant game balance issues that really do need to be fixed, but on the other, she's the most lovable cinnamon roll that ever existed, and her perfect smile must be protected at all costs. And on that note, the social features of New World Online have a much more significant impact on Beaufourie's story than any of its combat or character building mechanics do. Though the big fights in the show
just a quick comment. He said that the way the game handles Maple is realistic, which isn't at all. I mean, of course, they do balance patches, but right. the summary of the balance patch is summarized by another character who is friends with Maple, the walking fortress, is there won't be any more Maples. That is the balance patch. You are unique. And
right. Well, that's an interesting balance patch. Just you can't do that no more.
You can exist, but your build is you can't recreate your build anymore.
Yeah, that's not realistic at all.
And one ability of her did get a genuine nerf, but that's the summary of the nerf is
Mother's Basement.
You are not your build is no longer possible to create, but you can still exist.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? My God, stop fucking lying! Oh, Mother's Basement, why do you do this to me?
Small rare misrepresentations.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
Exciting and well-produced, they're mostly incidental to Beaufourie's A-plot, which follows Maple as she grows from a timid newbie and outsider to the gamer culture of WCW NWO into a veteran player and valued member of the community. So learning about MMO etiquette, adding other players to her friends list, mostly quirky, adorkable girls for some reason, and creating a guild end up being much more significant milestones for her than beating any particular boss. The really important battles in the series are always a team effort. Maple's individual victories are largely treated as trivial, except in the sense that they add to the community legend of Maple the walking and eventually flying fortress that ultimately draws more friends into her orbit. Progress which is marked at the end of each episode in Kuromu's chat logs, which, side note, I wish were subtitled better. Focusing on these communal elements.
Complaining complaining, they won't like that.
So, well, also hang on a minute. Maybe that's why he's misrepresenting the chat logs before saying that the players are complaining. Maybe it's the mistranslation, because I do know that there was a case of Funimation doing some funky stuff with the dub of this show.
I don't think it's quite that. I think it's just a typesetting issue, in which case, pause it. When it pops up, it's a very lazy way of subtitling something. At that point, you wonder why they even bothered to do it at all, but...
Yeah, I would have done it the types... Well, I mean, it's Crunchyroll, so what do you expect them to fucking actually put work into the shit?
Yeah.
No, it was Funimation that was doing the sub...
No, it was Funimation doing the subs. I don't know who's doing the subs for this, but whoever's doing... Both of them are just as bad as each other, because as I just said before, Funimation's been doing some funky stuff with the dub, changing the words and the lines from the sub and making people confused. It's not good. Don't do that. So, yeah, it's... But back to my point, right? Maybe that's why he's misrepresenting, and perhaps it's not necessarily him doing it deliberately, and it's more a case of the translation of the subtitles being shitty.
Not even really, but there was, I remember, an error in the first chat log. There was an error that basically says that something was when it wasn't, missing a knot in a sandwich.
Right. Okay.
But no, the chat logs are very supportive of Maple and noting how broken she is, and sometimes should this be allowed, but never a critique against Maple herself.
Alright. Okay. So that's that. So he's still being a bad boy. He's still being a bad boy.
Of MMOs only makes sense given that this show is one half moe comedy. Endearing character interactions are the whole point of that genre, after all. But it also puts the series in a unique position within the sphere of gaming anime. There is one other show about gamers running a guild out of a big treehouse, but Log Horizon more resembles a big corporation or mercenary outfit than the kind of guild your average MMO player might join. In Bofuri, Maple and Sally just buy a guild.
I don't know, man. Have you seen those EVE Online people?
Yeah, but his characterization of Log Horizon though, because that's not really what's going on in Log Horizon though. It's not.
Let's just focus on the guild aspects, and I would say plenty of stuff in Log Horizon is very much like a real guild with. There's one I remember one guild is just having lots of members so they can have lots of members and a bigger say in some council. Another guild is smaller, but is doing well, and the bigger guild is having internal issues. That stuff is MMO behavior, and especially EVE Online, of course, when the whole things are corporations and you better be in this meeting.
So I don't know. I don't like how I characterize that, but let's keep going.
Guild house so that they have a place to hang out and invite a few friends to join them because it seems like a fun thing to do. And through the process of them all having fun together, the Maple Tree Guild organically grows into something much bigger. I'd wager that for most of you watching this, aside from maybe the EVE Online players, Maple's story, is more representative of your experience with guild or clan systems in online games than that of the Machiavellian villain in glasses. Which isn't to say that Log Horizon's use of these ideas is bad, it's just different. That show is all about how we can use this.
You did mention EVE Online. Besides, I would disagree that not only EVE Online has serious guilds. World of Warcraft has serious guilds.
Oh yeah.
Final Fantasy XIV has serious guilds.
A certain unknown otaku knows a thing or two about serious WoW guilds. But my problem with that was just before, at the very beginning of the video, he's saying, "Oh well, the SAO systems are bad in comparison to the Infinite Dungeogram systems." But But now he's going, okay, well, the fact that Log Horizon is doing something different means that it's not bad, it's just different. Right?
Well, he did, before we forget, he did say that Bofuri has a bad system, but the context of the show makes it enjoyable.
Right. But that's not what I'm talking. I'm talking about the Dendogram part with the Dendogram and Sword Art Online, where he's comparing those systems, right? And he's going, okay, well, Dendogram has different systems, and that makes it better. But I'm not going to explain to you how it's better. I'm just going to tell you that it's better because I think it's better, right? But now he's doing what I was literally saying. It sounded like, the Sword Art Online comparison was. It's not the fact that Sword Art Online systems are worse, it's that they're different than Dendogram. So it's like, getting a bit rustled, but it's
he has a problem. He's running into this problem where, because it usually isn't his problem. This is usually normally Manime Matt's problem. But he has this problem where he's like not extrapolating on what he's saying very well.
Yeah. He's not explaining things. I want things explained to me.
Especially since this is a 20. God,
20
it isn't. It's 12-minute max.
Well, actually, I have a fun. Oh, can I do this on here?
Well, we'll get into. We'll talk.
I think
we'll
I
talk
can.
About that later.
I know what we're gonna do. I know what we're gonna do when we get to it.
Man.
Don't worry. I'm not going to. But I just had a brilliant fucking idea. But let's continue.
Skills we develop in online games to make a positive impact in our lives and the real world around us. Whereas Bofuri serves as a very gentle reminder that these games are still, at the end of the day, just games that exist primarily so that we can have fun with them and other people, and that we will generally have a better time with them if we focus on that instead of becoming obsessed with competing.
Nice ninja thinking. Let's pause it for a second. So, kind of a weird comparison because, it's actually a case of life or existential death in the case of Log Horizon. So it's
and Log Horizon too, yeah.
Yeah, for both of them. So it's it's for those characters. Those aren't just games. That's the whole gimmick around the thing, that it's a game environment, but something about it has been twisted or perverted.
Yeah.
We go in with that expectation.
Yeah. And the other thing about Log Horizon is the systems start to become real. And that's within the last season, right? That hit, which is getting another season in October. I'm fucking hyped. But they're talking about how over time the world is starting to become less of a game and more real, and how it's actually starting to affect how people use skills and stuff, and different things are starting to change within the world, and it's becoming very interesting, right? And that's kind of the thing, right? That's why these comparisons to me are just kind of a bit weird.
And even to bring back Sword Art Online, the first season isn't just a game, the second season isn't just a game, the third season isn't just a game, because people die, because in the first you die, if you die in the game, you die in real life, haha. The second game, my girlfriend is kidnapped and getting pseudo-raped, mind manipulated. The third is... somebody is apparently able to kill through the game.
Yeah.
The fourth, I don't know, but you get the point. None of these.
All I know about SAO after Gun Gale / whatever the other one is that Kirito goes into a coma or some bullshit. I don't fucking remember. But yeah, this is
So none of SAO is just a game, and Log Horizon is just a game because it's real for them.
But
Bofuri is just a game, and Infinite Dendogram is just a game.
Alright. But you see, Ali, the phrase "it's just a game" is such a weak mindset. You are okay with what happened.
Okay, Ninja.
Losing in perfection of the craft. When you stop getting angry after losing, you lost twice. There's always something to learn. Always room for improvement. Never settle.
Okay, Boomer.
Okay, Zoomer. Alright.
And winning. So Bofuri focuses on the aspects of online gaming that support its narrative goals as a slice-of-life moe thing, mostly playing the elements that don't for laughs, and in doing so, it finds a way to say something meaningful about the hobby as a whole, which is really important, because if a piece of media about gaming doesn't actually have much to say about gaming, that's often a sign that its creators see video games more as a marketable aesthetic than a topic that merits proper artistic consideration.
Quick pause. Because, bashing on the mainstream ignorant boomers is all fine and good, but has nothing to do with the video itself.
Not really. And, video. So, I think I'll actually... This is kind of off topic, but I feel like one of the reasons that a lot of games don't translate well into movies is just because of the interactive element. I brought this up actually in the video with Phil Bananas and on Keep Your Hands Off Isekan, right, with Manime Matt, where I feel like a lot of people don't utilize Isekan, whatever. Don't utilize the mediums in which they are trying to create art as effectively as they should, right? Or they're trying to create art in a medium that's not suited for it. So, for example, right, you take a game like Mario, right, and you try to translate that into a movie, right? Like, let's say, like, original Mario, before they started adding storylines and stuff or whatever. Like, that's how you get stuff like that Super Mario Brothers movie from, like, the 90s or the 80s or whatever, where it's
like...
it
was lit.
Yeah, but...
Where it was lit and super based and red-pilled, but it doesn't really have much in common with the actual game itself, because the game is an interactive thing, right? You're participating in it, and that formulates the narrative, right? Is the idea of game narrative through gameplay, right?
Yeah, but not. But really, these two movies that he shows are just, oh look, video games bad.
Yeah.
Without exploring video games at all themselves.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure why he's bringing this up.
Because he's just angry old zoomer at the old boomer.
Yeah, I imagine Mother's Basement would be more of a zoomer than a boomer.
Yeah, but he's just an angry zoomer yelling at the old boomer.
It's more like a soy boy millennial. Which I hate internally, because that means he's in the same, generation as me, and that's a source of shame. Yeah, I have to live with that.
Yeah, we all
You live in the same country, or continent at least.
Oh, no. No, he's Canadian.
Canada is not part of the same country. I don't even recognize them as being real sometimes, let me tell you. That's just the part of Alaska we ain't conquered yet.
Alright, let's keep going.
Its own right. That said, from a character perspective, I think it's often more interesting to explore what games can say about the people playing them. Characters in fiction are defined by the choices they make, after all, and since games are all about making choices, if you design a fake game with interesting systems and mechanics for your characters to interact with, the way they do can tell us a lot of interesting things about them. Bofuri doesn't dive too much into mechanical minutia, so it can only really use this to define its characters in the broader strokes. Maple's decision to min-max defense reflects her nervousness and single-mindedness. Sally chooses a hard class to play because she's a competitive overachiever, and Kuromu plays a tank because he's a supportive kind of guy who really likes protecting other people, just to give a few examples. Most of the depth these characters have is found in how they interact with each other, not the game itself. Infinite Dendrogram, with its fully sentient AI NPCs, blurs that line almost the second Ray Starling begins playing it, and it uses the attitudes that different players display toward the world's Tians, those fully sentient NPCs I just mentioned, as a sort of moral barometer. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The series is very concerned with the
what the conclusion is this?
Game works. Most of the show so far,
he's really getting close to the end, eh?
I'm feeling the climax.
A question that's intrinsically tied to the question of what kind of hero he ultimately wants to be. The show reflects his initial indecision by keeping his character design in constant flux.
Yeah.
Instead of
What's
picking
it
a
about?
look and sticking with it, like a certain brooding trenchcoat boy,
points.
Ray is constantly changing out his gear for stuff with better stats and special effects.
What game says about the
players?
players?
You know, like how actual humans play MMOs. As a side note, the anime kind of glosses over a lot of these details, as well as some really important world-building stuff.
Yeah, the other one kind of
central
glossed
underlying
over some
mystery
stuff
of the
as well.
entire story. Yuichiro Momose, the series screenwriter, is kind of bad at his job, which isn't surprising given his other work. And while the original source material is strong enough that the show is entertaining in spite of him, I'd highly recommend reading it instead of watching it. And hey, on that side note, Bookwalker's currently...
the sponsor. The video is over.
Or is it?
We have 14 minutes left, Ellie. What are you talking about that the video's over? He made all of his points.
I don't see...
Let me ask you a question.
I have the video's full screen. I have the video full screen. I don't see the bar. The video's over. He just gave the conclusion.
Wait, Ellie, shut up. Do you like to go fast?
I like to go fast. Well, the Sonic movie just came out.
Yeah, the Sonic movie just came out. I'm gonna test it.
I wasn't able to watch it.
How about we test something that I don't know if it'll work in this particular player?
But
how about we hit play and have a look?
But Naretsu, it's just for the last 30 seconds.
10 volumes of the light novel for 20% off, which turns into nearly 30% when you use the promo code BASEMENT for
look at how fast he's going.
Just saying, pretty good deals to be
had. Going
it's
so
not
fast.
just Ray who's defined by his playstyle.
You're going way too slow. You're amateurs.
Alright. Yeah, there we go.
Supporting character out of the ones we met so far anyway is probably Hugo. We're introduced to this foppish milady
wow, the video isn't over.
Yeah, man, this is a really long video. Holy shit.
Immediately familiar. He's an ancient character archetype we've all seen done a million times over. One of the most tired, low.
Oh my god, no, okay. Breaking character for a second. Even if we fast forward this shit, it's still 7 more minutes because it only goes up to times 2. It's like going the speed of light to the next solar system. It's fast, but it's not quite fast enough.
It still takes 5 years to get to the next planet.
So clearly, Infinite Dendrogram is using its premise for more than just broad nerd appeal, and it further enhances and accentuates Hugo's character through the embryo system. Embryos, remember,
so shall we wrap up? While this is going, let's talk about what we think about
I just want to point this out. Since we're talking about space for a second, in the time that, going times 2 on, or fast forwarding on YouTube, and the time that it's going to take for a fast forward YouTube video to finish his whole spiel, light would have traveled from the sun to Mars, and that's incredible. That's just beautiful.
It's clear how Ray's driving philosophy of seizing any possibility, no matter how
God
slim,
damn.
is reflected
So,
in
yeah, this video was interesting.
To always make the best of a bad situation manifests itself in the power of her second form to reverse the
I'm going to pause it now. We get the idea.
Alright. I think he made some points that he didn't really explain, and from what Ali has told us before we got to this point to make this really hilarious joke, he doesn't really go into anything after the Book Warner plug.
Yeah, but
so...
just to illustrate this, he just explained a character.
Yeah.
What does that do for explaining the series?
What does that do for explaining what makes a good fake game?
Nothing really, because you could have good characters in any stupid series. Why explain this character? Why explain the reasons for another character?
He has nothing else that's interesting to say.
He's got nothing else to say, but he's got to drag out the 10-minute video to be 25 minutes. You got to get that fucking ad revenue, boy. You got to fit 2 promos, because I'm willing to bet he has a promo at the end of this video as well, right?
There's way. Nobody can be that shameless. Go to the end of the video.
All right, fuck it. I'm doing it.
Just the last 2 minutes or so, and do your times 6.
With those goals in mind, I think you'll be on the right track. Now, if you want to learn more about game design, it is a real fun topic to research. I made a whole video about the fake design of SAO and another one theory crafting some of the potential made in this video game. So check those out if you'd like to hear more from me on the subject. As for me, I'm going to research the shit out of Judgment.
Oh yeah, just his own video promotion.
All right, well, good for him.
But basically, you paused on Infinite Dendrogram Blonde Face, and you ended the video on Infinite Dendrogram Blonde Face. Really?
Look at you know how you're talking about the whole idea of, you know, how you shouldn't, you know, some things work better with some genres, but can't quite, you know. Look at the Made in Abyss one, the anime that should have been a video game. That's called Etrian Odyssey.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But it's like, it's
FOE.
This video was really bad, right? This video was really, really bad because it's like he doesn't really explain a whole lot, and it doesn't.
Well, the
whole
video,
first half of the video to me, it's the whole. Oh, hang on, let me finish because I'm getting my closing statement, right?
All right.
Like the whole first half of the video to me just didn't make a whole lot of sense because he's talking about so SAO is bad. Okay, why is it bad? Okay, it's bad because it's meant to be a dungeon crawler and it's got these MMO elements, but why is there fishing in the MMO or whatever, right? That's like, okay, I guess that could be bad, but maybe there's context to that. Oh no, but this one is good because it has the system that's like the JoJo stands, right? And that means that the JoJo stands, right, make it better, and I'm like,
facilitate the wider growth.
Facilitate the wider thing, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, there, Mr. Basement. I don't. That doesn't really tell me how it's better than S. Oh, but this Shield anime with the cute girl, it's got terrible game system.
But wait, I was intrigued about your first point. Why don't you extrapolate it on it more?
Yeah, maybe you could. Oh no, don't. I'm not going to use that 25-minute runtime to extrapolate my points. You know, I'm going to use it to talk about random characters and why I like that. You see, that's my problem with this video, right? That's kind of why I'm like, come on, man. Like, we've actually covered Mother's Basement videos that are better than this. I'd argue the Cells at Work video, as cringe as him using plastic utensils was, is better than this video, right?
I'm still upset about that.
Like,
I totally forgot.
This is just sad, right? This is just sad. But anyway,
yeah,
I'll let you two finish.
Yeah, we're on a streak of showing the worst of AnyTube.
Yeah, pretty much.
First,
we showed the drama whore. We showed the Maname Matt breakdown, the deconstruction of Maname Matt,
yeah.
and now we're showing the Mother's Basement with the free. We almost need a fourth horseman of the apocalypse, right? What's going to be the fourth one? Maybe you'll have to subscribe to our YouTube channel and find out.
I swear to God, I'm not becoming a whore like that. I don't put on makeup to suck dick at a truck stop. I'm classy.
We have standards.
Yeah,
but subscribe, unsubscribe, dislike, like, doesn't give a fuck. Just fucking
fuck
whatever.
you
It's
guys.
all engagement in the eyes of YouTube anyway.
Doesn't fucking matter. Just please, if you're gonna make AnyTube videos, be better than this. Please.
But yeah, I want to continue. Anime Matt's problem is he doesn't do research, he doesn't explain, and he could have to do more with the knowledge that he should have. Mother's Basement is he just gives summaries of shows and repeats points until they're 20 minutes long, and if they're not long enough, he'll just talk about other things he likes, and that makes for incredibly boring videos.
Yeah.
I mean, we have other videos where we are constantly talking about and making up our own points, like we did with Maname Matt. He says stuff, we disagree, he doesn't explain it well enough, we think of stuff.
With Maname Matt's video, we at least managed to get some pretty decent discussions out of it. Which is what I thought we were. Which is what I thought we were going to be able to get out of this video.
I will give. I'm actually going to give some props to Manime Matt here. He isn't right about a lot of things, but he presents things in a way that at least sparks discussion somewhere.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Even though the discussion is broken down the next 10 seconds because what he says is wrong.
Yeah, but it still sparks that discussion with like something like Mother's Basement. It's just it's all filler. Like, okay, like the whole reason he does the whole states the whole point 3 times in a row thing. I guess that's because, he needs to like make sure his audience that is probably comprised of like high school students like learn things correctly, because that's how you teach somebody something. Repeat it 3 times.
Yeah,
Roll
but
3 on
the
that.
way that he's
just
doing
like
it
JoJo
like,
stands.
No,
it's
but
not
the
what you
problem
have,
with that
it's
is,
how you
and
use
that's
it.
true, right? Because I have background.
Like JoJo.
I have background in tutoring, so I can kind of weigh in on that. That's not wrong. The thing is the way that you effectively do that is you have to make sure that they don't realize you're doing it. You have to repeat it in a way that makes it not seem like you're repeating it. With Mother's Basement, it's very fucking clear that he's just repeating the same points, right? Like the JoJo thing, and just it's God damn it, I'm tired.
I will say that this is a much nicer video still. Like, okay, I actually like. It's been like 2 weeks, but I'm still kind of like floored by the whole thing with like the what video we did. So these last 2 videos, especially this one,
it's been like a breath of fresh air.
It's been a nice come down.
God, that just goes to show how bad that video was. But anyway, I guess we should probably cap it off here before we end up rambling for the next 2 hours. So,
Which we could, but, it wouldn't be about this video because it is so little to say.
Yeah.
The problem of Mother's Basement, not really anything of substance.